Welcome to my May wrap-up. I don't know what these hands are, but we're sticking with it. Welcome to my studious looking May wrap-up. I have business on the top, and then I have like parachute pants. Hold on. And I have parachute pants on the bottom to make it look like I just came from dance practice. And also, you may be wondering, why am I in a turtleneck and a sweater vest in June? Well, we have like a weird cold front happening again in lovely New York, where it's super breezy out, super foggy, so that's also why the lighting is very weird. Just warning you. All right, let's go ahead and get into the wrap-up, because there is a few, and I'm feeling very talkative about some of these books. I read 8 books this month. It was an overall good reading month. I did come out with a favorite. Overall, they were mostly good books. There was like one that I did not like out of the 8, which is very great for me because I've been having like an on and off reading year where like some months they're great and I'm having a blast reading, and then there's other months where I'm just like I'm struggling to get through. So the first book that I read was Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. And I'm actually going to put, I don't know where yet, but this cover I actually got from Book Depository. Rest in peace. It just was such a beautiful cover, and I was like, maybe I'll love this book and want to get a tattoo based on the cover. I despised this book. It was awful for me. Some people might love it and love the conversations, like talking about the environment in this post-apocalyptic world and like AI. But I could not get over how women were written in this. Every single woman was described childlike. And I don't know how else to explain it besides pedophilia. It was pedophilia because as soon as like the man, what was his name? Rick Deckard. What a name. He described this woman as childlike and a childlike body and child this, child that. And then all he wanted to do was have sex with her. Every single woman in this was sexualized and like infantilized. It was so disgusting to me. Like, it took me out any time that I tried to like get back into the book. Also, nothing happened, and it's building up to like a big finale. Like, you're just expecting like guns blazing, sci-fi fighting realness. And the conflict was 2 pages of like fighting in the dark. And I just was not a fan. I'm just going to explain what this book is about. This book is about a man named Rick Deckard who works with police to hunt androids, or Andes as they call them. And like basically his dream is to buy a live animal because most of them have gone extinct. And so the reason why he is looking for these particular androids, there's a big bounty on them, and so he's able to get like a live animal, blah 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 blah. He falls into this whole world of androids and them adapting to human life. I was really excited about that synopsis. I was like, oh, we're getting into environmentalism and capitalism, like this sort of thing. And there was like no conversation about it, which could be on me. I could be the one that is like bringing that into it. But it almost seemed like it was marketed that way, so it could be like a publishing error. But like nothing happened. And I don't know. I don't know what else to say. It's such a short book, but I was in such a slump reading it that it took me forever to get through. And I gave it 2 stars because I could see what it did for like the sci-fi genre, and like there was parts where I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting, but it just didn't develop from there. All right. Next, I actually read this in the same day that I read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep because I was like, I need a palate cleanser. And so I read volume 4 of Jujutsu Kaisen by Gege Akutami. It has my man's Gojo on the cover. And this one is starting the... I can't think of what the arc is called. I think it's like the Kyoto Games, Tokyo Games. It starts the tournament that the Tokyo school and the Kyoto school have against each other. That's where volume 4 ends. I love this arc. I have a problem remembering like what the arcs of like anime and manga are called. Yeah, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like some sort of like tournament. And knowing what happens, like, because I am up to date on the Jujutsu Kaisen leaks, there is like this longing for this innocence in the beginning of this series, because we've already like experienced some darker elements, but it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get so much worse. This one so far is my favorite of the volumes that I've read. So I gave this 5 stars, I think, but like ranking manga is weird for me because like the other manga that I read was Spy Family, and I gave everything 5 stars because I was like giggling the whole time. Like, is it the best written manga? No, but I love it so much. And so that's like kind of how I'm treating JJK. Next, I don't know how to explain the feelings I had after I started reading this book. I'll just go ahead and say the title. It's Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Everyone has read this book this month. This is about a girl who is the daughter of a commander, I think, in this dragon rider fleet, and she is going to this dragon rider school. She actually grew up to be a scribe, but her mom is telling her that she has to go through dragon riding school. Everyone has talked about this book, so I'm not going to go into like to too much detail, but I will say my reactions after reading. First was just me screaming, crying, and throwing up. The next one was I want to pick up every book that involves dragon riding because I was so in love with it. And I know a lot of people are like, the dragon riding, like, it's better described in other things, which is great for me that I had this as my introduction to this subgenre of fantasy involving dragons and dragon riding, because I want to read every single book that involves that. The dragons, bitch. I gave this 5 stars. Because I had so much fun. I can understand why some people did not like it. I can understand that. But for me, I had so much fun that I couldn't hate it. Also, the romance in here. Yeah. Get you a man like this man. Ooh. There is one character that every time he opened up his mouth, I won't say his name because like everyone should have their own opinions on the characters. But anyone that thinks that this character deserves a redemption arc, no. He is despicable. It's just, oh, every time he opened his damn mouth, even in the beginning, I was just like, dude, shut up. Shut up. I don't know if I would consider it a favorite of this book, a favorite of mine yet. But I did give it 5 stars. I throw 5 stars around like no one's business, though. The next 5 books I've talked about, I talked about in my last video. So I'm not going to go into complete, like, full detail of my thoughts. But we will try to get through this quickly. So the next book that I read was Ring Shot by P. Jolly Clark. This is, and I always have, for some reason, I have trouble describing this book. So all I'm gonna say is it takes place in the 1920s after The Birth of a Nation came out and cast a spell to have demons start taking over Ku Klux Klan members, and work with them to create a new version of hell on Earth. And this group of individuals come together to fight these demons. It is a roller coaster, dude. Like, once you're past page 1, it is a non-stop craziness happening. The only thing I had a problem with this book was the ending, just because of the pacing. Because everything, it was zooming so freaking quick that at the end, it was just like, oh, that's it? Okay. Like, again, with like the main conflict, like, it's reaching up to a point that you're like, all right, the battle, right? And the battle was like a page and a half. I think there was a fantastic dynamic between, there was like the 3 main women. It was Maurice, who's the main character, Chef. If you saw my last video, you know my feelings for Chef. And then I believe Sadie is the other character. And they're the ones that are doing most of the hunting. They have a leader. Her name is Nana Jean. And she only speaks Gullah, which I thought was so fascinating. Because the language, the way that everything is written in this book, it was just so beyond anything that I had read before that I was a huge fan. And I'm curious with the author's other books if it's similar, that the language takes up a big part of the book. Like, I would like to say that the language of Ring Shout was a character in itself, just because I feel like if it was written like in a, we could see like a normal prose and like wording, it would not be the same. Like, it wouldn't have the same effect. But like with the way that things are worded in here, the way that things are structured, it's like the woman, Maurice, is speaking to you and her voice is in your head. It was so fantastic. I thought, I don't think I'm gonna read a book like that ever again with that kind of voice, and to cause, like, I can hear this character's voice in my head as she's telling me what she's been through. I loved the reaction that I got out of this book. Next, a favorite of all time. We know this. The favorite of all time is Hanif Abdurraqib's They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us. This is a collection of essays that Abdurraqib wrote. A lot of them involve music, race. There is, I think, two or three that involve like him talking about growing up in a Muslim house, this sense of freedom with it, the sense of identity with being Muslim. I actually listened to it on audiobook, and I think that is the way to read it, because he is a poet. He doesn't just write essays. And it's very clear that he is a poet. The way that he speaks, the way that his voice changes when he's reading the essays, it's so intimate. One of my favorite parts of this book is like when listening to it is when he would interject with his notes updating the essays since it came out a couple years ago. The world has changed in the past several years, and some of them he wrote like back in the early 2000s, and so he's updating his thoughts or updating his beliefs or updating and adding on to an essay without adding on to the essay itself. And I just, the way that he changed his voice and it just seemed like he was having a conversation with you, I thought that was so well done. I don't know whose idea, if that was his idea or like the director of the recording. I thought that was such a brilliant production idea. Next, I read Deep as the Sky, Red as the Sea by Rita Chang-eppig. This is a pirate tale about a woman whose husband is murdered and she needs to keep control of her side of the fleet, and so she decides that she needs to marry her husband's second in command, Chung-po, who decides that, all right, let's get married, and she's going to produce an heir for him so she can keep control of this fleet. Just know it's not like a crazy adventure. It is a lot of talk. But for me, I loved it. I loved that there was a lot of talk to it. There were so many fantastic lines in this. I need to read more from this author because I was just in awe of how well, like, every word was intentional with this, and I was just absolutely obsessed. Look into the content warnings for this because there are a lot. So go in knowing the content warnings, just so you have a kinder experience to your mental health before going in. Next, I had to read something that was a little bit lighter, just because a lot of the books I read this month are very heavy, because I was reading 2 books at one point at the same time. The first one was King of Pride by Huang. I don't know how to describe this book or like how to describe my feelings for this book because I'm still torn, because so at this point I've read 6 Huang books. Like, I read all the Twisted books, that series, and then I read King of Wrath and now King of Pride. The tension, loved it. Did I feel like it was a little too quick? Yes, I did. I think that's my problem, because I find that in romance tropes, I love a slow burn. So like when a couple gets together and like is already showing that immediate tension, for me it's just like a little, I don't know. There is this element of I don't know how else to describe the trope, but like there's a power dynamic in a way at first. She's a bartender and he is a member of this bar. And so there is a conversation before that, like a staff member is not supposed to get involved with any of the members of this group, no matter if the member goes on to the staff member. The staff is always punished. For the most part, the members of this club are not. So take that, like, if you are a little triggered by that, I would ask for you to be careful, just because it's like, it doesn't stay a problem for long. I'll say that. I talked about it at a certain length in the previous video, so I'm not going to get into it again. But I will say that I loved Kai. I loved his temperament. He wasn't like too alpha male, so he wasn't like broody the whole time. Some of Anna Huang's other male love interests are a little too broody for me. I'm just like, you can smile. You can smile. It's fine. It's not gonna kill you. But Kai, he's built different. And I do like him. The one that I am most excited about, though, is coming next in this series. I think it comes out actually at the end of the year, and it's King of Greed. And it deals with a couple that is kind of, sort of seen in this book. They actually were also in King of Wrath, but I'm very excited for that one. But yeah, I gave King of Pride 4 stars. Oh, I didn't say what I gave Deep as the Sky, Red as the Sea. I also gave Deep as the Sky, Red as the Sea 4.5 stars, actually. The last book I read in May, Crying in the Bathroom by Erika Sánchez. This is a collection of essays that are told like more like a memoir. It's a lot of conversation on like sexuality, her finding Buddhism, and a lot of it is her conversation of dealing with depression. One of my favorites, I think it's called La Mala Vida, I believe is how you say it. That one's just about her spirituality, but a lot of them go into detail about her journey with depression. So again, look at the content warnings. There is some heavy conversation about her dealing with her depression. I did love the conversations with her and her family. I thought they were hilarious. I think Erika Sánchez, she's a comedian. I love her. I think she has fantastic conversations on race and white privilege and being a Mexican-American woman, being a daughter of immigrants. I adore her. I think she is fantastic, and I want to read more from her. I want to read I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, because she does reference that in this book and what she was dealing with while she was promoting that book. So it'd be interesting to go back and read that now, knowing what was happening to her while that was happening. I had a pretty good reading month. Overall, very heavy topics. But yeah, that's my wrap up. It's a jumbled mess. Editing, Emma, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I hope you enjoyed this wrap up. I hope you enjoyed the garbage coming out of my mouth. And also my bad posture. I hope you stay healthy. I hope you stay well. If you haven't taken your meds today, go take them and drink some water, please. Take care of yourself. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.